community, on how to master forums, ideas, and forge. So before getting into the session or speaking about this topic, I would I would like to know what is your major takeaway in your activity with OutSystems forums, Forge, and your overall OutSystems community activity, how it was before and how it is now?
Okay. Yeah, I started working with OutSystems like around 2015. And I think already the community back then was a great community. I immediately fell in love with it, compared it to other development communities that I've worked with in the past. I thought it was set up very well, very active, and also giving a lot of quality. And I started using the community basically to learn. So I had already a career of more than 3 decades in software development with other technologies. And when I moved to OutSystems, I wanted to be up and running fast. So I did the training. I was on projects. I learned stuff there. But you're very, the project-related tasks are always similar. And trying to help people on the community with their problems that I also didn't know the solution for, but I actively started trying to solve them. That
Yeah.
really accelerated the growth of my OutSystems expertise. And I think the community has grown since 2015. You definitely see certain regions being way more active than 10 years ago. And that is natural with the expansion of the ecosystem to APAC and other regions. So I think that's the major difference. It's less European than it maybe was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But that's good.
Yeah, it's definitely good. Yes.
Yeah.
So I remember our first interaction. I had requested for a mentorship session with you via ADP list, and I had some notions before speaking to you, that seeing your messages, I wouldn't say scared, but your messages will sound on point, very crisp, and sometimes very strict. And I thought you will not be the person who will be very open or who will not be responding in a polite way. I had these notions in mind before joining the session. But to my surprise, you were very polite, be it when it comes to responding to my questions, or not just responding. You were also adding points, or you were answering to additional questions that could arrive for my main question. Plus, you were almost not all, I mean, I was kind of late for 2 minutes. You were perfectly on time. You were waiting for me, and I was really surprised with our interaction that we had the other day, and truly inspired. So
Thank you.
I just thought this session could be an opportunity for people in the community to see you speak and to understand how you actually are. Because many
That's,
of them, not just me, many people in the community have this notion about you. And if someone is active in forums, it's inevitable for them to be unaware of your name, as you are someone who moderates and whose activities like the topmost when it comes to forums, at least from my understanding. So thank you once again for being available for today's session.
yeah.
So so yeah, let me just get started with my introduction, and then I'll hand over the session to you. I am an OutSystems trainer. My name is Krishnambal, and I have been part of user groups since 2020. So when we had initialized, or when this concept of regional user group was in negotiation with OutSystems, that was when people like Khati Mary and myself, we volunteered to organize sessions. And yeah, so Chennai user group is one of the oldest user groups, at least in India, and we have the highest number of followers, or be it the number of sessions. So we are trying our best to keep our sessions consistent, and I'm very, very happy that we are kind of covering one of the very important topics that every community member must know, and that too from the best person possible. So thank you so much, Daniel, and handing over the session to you. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, let me share my screen.
Sure. In the meantime, we have an exclusive section for answering your questions at the end. So feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A box. Yeah, we can see your screen, Daniel.
Yes. Great. All right. You can still hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. All right. Okay, so thank you for the invite. Today's session will be about how to become a valued OutSystems community contributor based on my own experience. So, my name is Daniel Kuhlmann, and I started working with OutSystems in 2015. And being more than 3 decades in other technology, I wanted to learn fast and be up to speed quickly. And I thought that the training website, the online free training, was great. My colleagues were great that already knew more about OutSystems and helped me learn. But the forum was a nice place in my free time to actually start trying to help other people, like, look at their problem. And most of the problems they had, I had no clue how to solve them. But it was my way of learning, try to own their problem, try to fix it and reply. And that basically started my journey on the OutSystems community. So what are the 3 pillars of the OutSystems community engagement? Well, first, the forums, of course, where you can ask questions, you can start a discussion, and you can reply. Ultimately, of course, reply with something that is actually a solution to the question. Then second, you have the ideas page where you can share ideas on how you want to improve the platform, the EDA, the training, or the community. And basically, it's a place where you have the potential to influence the roadmap of OutSystems. And then third, you have the Forge. On the Forge, you can share the applications or components, libraries that you've built, but you can also leverage the ones that other community members have shared, speeding up your development and resolution time. So why would you want to participate? So the benefits for the individual are, for example, faster learning and skill development. By being on the forum, you can read about solutions provided in the past. You can do as I do, own a problem and try to figure out what the solution is as a way to improve your skills. It also is a networking opportunity. You can meet peers, but you can also meet, of course, OutSystems employees that also participate on the community pages. You can meet and chat with OutSystems champions, with OutSystems MVPs, basically with everybody in the community. So that's a nice networking opportunity. And also it gives you some recognition. While you contribute positively to the community, you'll collect points, you will collect badges, you have a ranking. So it gives a form of recognition of your contribution. And it's also a support platform and motivational because, you can try to solve all your problems by yourself on your own, but having a community there that can help you is a nice way to feel motivated to actually overcome difficult challenges when you're coding with OutSystems. And this is something that I hadn't in mind when I started my career with OutSystems and started contributing. It was for me initially a learning exercise to quickly gain expertise. But once I saw the impact of my contributions, it turned into that I really wanted to contribute and really want to give back to the community. I really enjoy helping people. And I think those are like great benefits for individuals on the community to participate. So what are the benefits for the community? Well, it's a non-collective learning. 2 people know more than 1, and many people in the community know way more. So by having a platform where we can share knowledge, we actually also collectively learn, and we learn faster, and it will grow the ecosystem. It makes the ecosystem stronger with more and more skilled developers. It's also there is also the developer advocacy and the community growth in it. With experienced community members helping others, it advances the growth of the lesser experienced developers, and thereby the community grows faster. So it also attracts more developers in a way. And with people on the community collaborating, you actually also are fostering some kind of innovation, because as we speak with each other, we'll give ideas to each other, things that we didn't thought of, and that also excels innovation to share with each other new ideas on how to do things differently, maybe better. And it's also, I'm working at an OutSystems partner. It's actually a talent development and recruitment tool also. I do see people that are very active on the community with very valuable contributions, and sometimes it is a consideration to talk to a person and see if they want to consider to be a colleague of me. And I guess other OutSystems partners could do the same. So, having a good reputation on the community with active and quality contribution can help also there. And as I said already before, you can influence the product roadmap with your feedback, with your ideas, with voting on ideas. It can help. So, how to ask a great question? First, make a clear and descriptive title. So, for example, a good title would be how to filter an aggregate using a dynamic list of values in OutSystems. But a bad version of this title would be need help with aggregates. It's not so clear. So a clear title really helps others to quickly understand your issue and increases the chance of relevant replies. We don't all have to open first the question to understand what it really is. The title already gives saying like, hey, I think I can help you. Then provide context and background. Explain what you're trying to achieve, not just the problem. This helps others to suggest better solutions. For example, I need to filter on an aggregate based on a dynamic list of IDs from a user input. This list is stored in a local variable, but I'm unsure how to apply it as a filter in OutSystems. That's really a good context description of your problem. And a bad version would be, well, my filter doesn't work. Any ideas? Yeah, so provide context and more details. Also share what you have tried. Include code snippets or screenshots or some explanation maybe of the debugging that you already tried. If it's about an error that you don't understand, try to include the error log details with a call stack. Ideally, provide an OML file. Now, many times people say, yeah, I cannot provide an OML file because the company doesn't allow me. Well, that's correct, but it would still help if you provide something. So think about isolating the problem maybe in a separate OML that does not have the issue of you're not able to share it. Isolate the problem, and it will actually accelerate a lot on getting quickly good replies or even a solution. Also, be specific and concise. So describe what the exact issue is. Is it about an error message? Is it about unexpected behavior? Maybe a performance issue. Maybe it's just like you don't know how to get started. But explain specific, concise, and structured. Use bullet points. Use numbered steps, some headings to structure your question. But also avoid unnecessary detail. And something I personally don't like is if people put a lot of empty lines in their question, whereby the question is, I need to scroll a lot. Keep it compact and structured and easy to read. Also set the post context. So when you create a new post, you have a few options to select. You have the application type, the Service Studio version, the platform version, and the forged asset. I really want to focus on the application type and the forged asset. If you select the application type, that really helps because you will get automatically the right tag on your post. It's for the readers very relevant to understand whether your application is a mobile app, a reactive web app, or a traditional app or an extension. And if you have an issue for using a specific Forge component, instead of writing the name in your reply or providing the URL in your reply, select here the Forge component. That makes it 100% clear on which component you have your question about. There are a lot of components with similar names, and if you just provide a name, it's up to the reader to understand exactly which component you're talking about. So these two are really important to do. And use proper tags. You can add up to 5 tags to describe what your question is about. And there's a good example here. There's several tags. There's also the beginner tag. And that's also, if you are a beginner, use it. Make sure it's there. Why? Because the people that reply, they can be taken in consideration that you are a beginner, that they need to provide a bit more detail, maybe a few more links to specific documentation or training material. And that will help you to get better replies. And now, what is a bad example? Unfortunately, by default, you get a one-click publish tag because that's on the top of the list of the tags. So, if your question is not about one-click publish, it's better to remove it. So now that we have covered what the things are to create a good question, let's look at how to give a great answer. First thing first, read the question carefully. So many people are so quick to reply, not really reading the question. They reply with a reactive solution while the question is about a traditional web application or the other way around. So before answering, make sure you fully understand what the person is trying to achieve, what the issue is that they are facing, and what they already have tried. So you're not going to suggest something that they already have tried. And also avoid answering too quickly without understanding the complete context. So be clear and structured. Organize your response so it's easy to follow. Use headings to separate some sections if you have a long reply. Use bullet points or a step-by-step guidance. If possible, include code snippets and some screenshots. For example, here's an example. There's a screenshot included and a description on how to do something. And that's a good way to do it. You could also, of course, include an OML, but don't just include the OML. Because for the community, the only way to learn from this, we have to download the OML, open it in Service Studio, inspect it. That's like a lot of steps to actually understand why that OML might be the solution. Instead, include the OML, but also include some highlights of how you solved it and maybe some screenshots. Provide, if possible, a solution, not just. So give a complete answer with some explanation, an example. If there are multiple ways to solve the problem, you could mention the alternatives. And then also not only explain the how, but also explain the why. So this helps actually the community member that has the question to understand the reasoning behind the solution that you provide. And that improves learning and it prevents future issues. And be friendly and encouraging. So a positive and professional tone improves engagement. Now, this is something that I will honestly say I also sometimes fail in. And as mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, where you shared that the way I communicate written might be differently than when you speak to me. I think maybe it's also like a cultural thing. The Dutch are very direct. Yeah. So as I contributed on the community, I've learned to be more polite, even though I would not consider myself impolite, but compared maybe to other standards in other regions of the world or in other communities. I also notice sometimes, and I still sometimes do it wrong, that I'll make a joke, which might be some kind of sarcasm in it, which is quite common to do in the Netherlands, but in other countries it's perceived as in a different way, you know. And so, yeah, sometimes I'm still making the mistake, and it's good to understand that. It's a reminder again if somebody reacts on it in a way that I didn't expect, to keep really an eye on it, to be friendly and encouraging.
Definitely, Daniel. And I wouldn't say your tone to be impolite. I will term that as strict and to the point, like you rightly said. And yeah, please proceed.
Yeah. Also, if possible, include documentation and related posts. So if the solution involves some OutSystems feature or a Forge component or a relevant forum post, include them in your reply as a link, and also make sure that it's actually a link. Yeah, if you put a link in your reply, you can ensure that it's a hyperlink on which you can click. Many times there are links, but then you have to copy paste it. Do this little extra step. And follow up. So if the community member responds with more questions, to engage, I clarify further if you have time to do that. If you made an incorrect assumption or a wrong reply, try to update it if you can still. There's a limited time window in which you can do that, or acknowledge it. You could also contact an OutSystems MVP through a private message to look at it. It's okay to request a reply to be deleted, but also think about if there is already a conversation on your reply, that conversation will also be removed. If someone else provides a better answer, acknowledge it. It's on the content. We are not, when we address something, it's not the person, it's the reply. So what are some do's and don'ts on the forum participation? Well, as I already mentioned, respectful and considerate. Also, try to search before asking. There are so many questions asked so many times. Sometimes it's faster for you to find a solution by searching. Yeah, the whole purpose of having replies marked as solution is that when you search first, maybe you already find the solution. And you don't need to wait for somebody to reply on your question. So that's really important to first search. If you can find it on the search form of the forum, just search in Google. It does a great job also. Also, mark replies as solutions. So if people give a good reply that actually solves your problem or answers your question, mark it as a solution. This helps other people with similar questions in the future to easily find a solution faster. And it also acknowledges the help that the community member gave to you to give that answer or solution. Something that I see over the last few years is that some people tend to be more focused on quantity, so number of replies, than quality. I don't think on the long run that will work. Providing a lot of questions takes you a lot of time. It doesn't really add quality to the community, so it doesn't really help on your recognition, where quality is way more important. So my preference is to reply less but with good quality than just reply a lot of media or low quality replies. Also be mindful about downvoting. This is a very sensitive topic on the community. Some people get really upset. I get also a lot of downvotes. I think being very active, that also attracts a lot of downvotes, and that's okay. In the beginning, I had to understand that, and I realized they are not downvoting me. I think that's something you need to understand. They are not downvoting you as a person per se. It's downvoting your reply. If your reply has not following the community guidelines, if you're disrespectful, people will downvote. It's your vote that they are downvoting. Maybe you did not tend to be, disrespectful, but if it is like that, people can downvote a reply that is not on the topic. So if the question is about a mobile problem, but the proposed solution of force components is a traditional component, that's not really the right answer. So why would you downvote it? We're not downvoting the person. The downvote is for the other community members in the future, when reading the thread, to understand quickly that reply will not provide a good solution. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. if you are actively contributing in a positive and with quality replies on the community, your upvotes will be totally outnumber any downvotes you have. So I would say don't worry too much about it. Yeah, we are not downvoting people, we are downvoting the reply. And although I mentioned here a few of the do's, OutSystems has a community code of conduct. I have a slide at the end with some links where there are even more do's and don'ts described. So what you should not do on the forum? Well, avoid vague or duplicate questions or answers. Now, sometimes this just happens because multiple people are at the same time replying, and that's truly understandable. There's no problem in that. But there's quite a lot of discussions where you see a reply and then 1 hour later, the same reply, and another hour later, another reply. And then over the course of 1 or 2 days, there are maybe 5, 6 replies that are all just equal. It really doesn't add anything to the discussion. Also, don't awake very old discussions. Sometimes people reply on a discussion that it's like 4 years ago, like, okay, did anybody solve this? It is better to create a new question if you have a problem and include a reference to the old thread. That way, your question can be answered and you have the opportunity to actually market a solution. But if you awake an old discussion where maybe somebody will reply to you with a solution, you are not able to market as a solution. Yeah, so it's better than to create a new question and set a link to the old discussion with a similar problem. Don't reply with 100% +1, thanks for sharing. People follow the questions, and anytime there's a reply, they get a reminder email. So now imagine you get like, if everybody starts adding thanks for sharing, we'll get 10, 20 or 30 times an email where we will read that somebody said thanks for sharing. There are a thumbs up and a thumbs down button on the forum for purpose. If you like something, you can give a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give a thumbs down. Also, don't leave questions unanswered. Yeah. Many of the people active in the top 10 on the forum actually filter on unanswered questions and scan through them if there's something then that they know an answer for. The forum is very active, so it's, one moment it's on the first page, the second moment it's on page 3 and nobody sees it. So if you want to participate on the community, search for the unanswered questions and see if you can answer them. Also, don't ask to mark your reply as a solution in a thread. It's not per se about collecting points when you contribute, but it's perfectly okay to ask it in private message. But give the original post of the question some time to read your reply and act on it. Not everybody is every day on the forum, so give it a week or even more. If you feel like your reply is definitely the solution and there is no interaction, you could reach out by a private message asking the community member if your reply helped or any other reply in the thread, and suggest them to mark those replies that are giving the right answer or solution as a solution, and explain why. Because it's about other community members in the future being able to quicker find a solution on the forum, and it's also an acknowledgement to the person that helped. But don't do it in the discussion. And a very important one, don't game the system. Luckily, this doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. OutSystems MVPs that are moderating on the forum are very active on the forum and see so many messages that they quickly identify the patterns, the anti-patterns. And I will not explain how people are gaming the system. I don't want to foster that. But be aware that they are identified, that OutSystems has the means to track who is replying, and if it is confirmed by OutSystems that you are gaming the system to collect points in a way that not really are the way to go for, OutSystems will contact you, and basically you lose your credibility. So don't do it. Be a good community member. So I have documented a few questions and answers. Let me see if I can switch to the page where I have those. Let's see. I have here, for example, you guys can still see my screen?
Yes, Daniel, we can.
Okay. So here's an example of a good forum reply from Mihai, who's currently very active on the community. It has a sample on what to do. It has a link to the documentation, how to use it, and an OML. This is a right way to answer the question.
Can you zoom in a little bit? We can't see the text clearly.
Okay. Is it better now?
Yeah, it is better.
Okay. So here's another one where it's detailed description. There's a code snippet. That's really also a good way of giving a solution, a reply. Here's a good question. So, good screenshots, detailed description of everything that the person wants to do and that it didn't work. Here's another good example of a question with a lot of detail and what the issue is. And so, providing a lot of content and context really helps to get quick and fast replies. So, let me go back to the presentation. So now that we have covered the forums, let's look at the idea space. So what is the idea space? It's a collaborative space where a community shares and votes for ideas related to EDA, training, community, and some more. And OutSystems uses this community feedback to shape the product roadmap. So your ideas can actually make a difference. And there are already more than 10,000 ideas posted, and 10% of those are already implemented. Now, that doesn't seem to be a lot, and some ideas exist already since the start of the ideas page. And we would like many ideas to be implemented. Of course, we cannot force that, but the ratio is quite good, I think, if 10% of the community ideas are implemented. I've worked with other technology where I didn't see such a feature available to actively share and see so many ideas being implemented. So I think it's a great place to share ideas. What's really important when you want to share an idea is to first check if your idea is original. I know it's not easy, because unfortunately, when you search on the ideas page, the filter isn't so smart. It doesn't use any fuzzy logic to understand what your ideas is and looks for similar ideas. It really searches on your words. So give it a few searches to figure that out. And if you think it's original, then you post it. Be aware that we are moderating the ideas, and if the idea is not original, it will be merged. That's just a process that is in place to make sure that there are not many of the same ideas floating around. They are merged together to keep the discussion focused. So how do you submit a well-defined idea? So clearly define the problem. Describe the idea or limitation, explain the benefit of the idea, and be specific, not vague. So, for example, Service Studio is slow. It's not really a specific definition of an idea. But if you say Service Studio takes a long time to load large modules due to dependency checks, this slows down the development and affects productivity, that's a clear problem description. Also propose a specific or one specific solution. Explain how OutSystems could solve the issue, suggest a concrete feature or improvement, or if possible, add a mock-up or example to visualize your idea. So for example, introduce an option to load modules in read-only mode to speed up opening times. That's a clear description of a possible solution. Also describe, if possible, the impact and the benefits. So who's benefiting from this improvement? How will it increase productivity or usability or performance? Or what is the use case? And again, a bad example would be, well, Service Studio is slow, but a good example of describing the impact and benefits is it reduces load times for large modules. Reducing load times for large modules will improve developer efficiency by 30%, making it easier to work on enterprise scale applications. So what are the do's and don'ts on the ideas page? Ensure your idea is original. Post one idea at a time. Sometimes people combine a lot of ideas, which makes it a bit hard because maybe some of them are already there and now it cannot be merged, and we get like a spreaded discussion on the same idea over different places. So post one idea at a time. If you have 2 or 3 ideas, post them separately. Post to improve the platform, the training and the community pages. Do not post like, hey, I have an idea for an application to build. Well, if you're on the community, you're a developer, and the platform is about giving you the tools to develop. So I would say if you have an idea for an application, why not build it? It's not, the idea space is not really there for that. It's about improving the platform, the training and the community. Also, press the like button if you like an idea. That's the purpose of the like button. Thereby, it gets more visibility throughout systems that more people like this idea. Also, if you think an idea is vague or you don't understand it, you can ask for clarification if needed. That's something I do a lot because a lot of ideas are unfortunately very vague and lack details. Also, if people reply, do also reply on those comments to clarify or improve your idea. And so if you post a vague idea and somebody asks for clarification, post a clarification. Otherwise, basically, your idea will not get the traction that you're looking for. What you should not do is post good ideas and avoid vague ideas, as already mentioned before. Also, don't spam again here with the 100%, the +1, or I agree. Because basically, if you like an idea and you want to have that visible to our systems, you need to press the like button. Yeah, I put the thumbs up here, but I think it's a like button. Also, don't hijack the idea thread for unrelated topics. Sometimes people reply basically to post their own idea. So make sure if you have an idea to post it and not hijack an unrelated idea. Also, don't post ideas to improve specific components. The best way to get a Forge component improved, there's actually 2 ways, but one is you create a question on the forum and select the Forge component. And the other way is you go to the Forge component support page and put a support question there. In both cases, the Forge component team gets a notification. If you post a question about a component on the ideas page, the team is not informed. So your chance of the team reading your idea is very low unless they read every idea on the ideas page. There's an exception, and that is for OutSystems UI. That's a category on the ideas page. But in general, I would say if you have a question or an idea to improve a specific Forge component, go to the forum and select the Forge component. I think that's the best way to go forward. Then I collected a few examples of some let me switch back again to the browser. So this is an example of a very detailed idea. It describes the objectives and benefits, the features that he is asking for, the technical specification, example use cases, and even a mock-up already. So this is really, in my opinion, a very detailed idea. And I would say it actually would deserve more than 2 votes. Here's another example of a good idea. Oh, I hear a lot of noise.
Let me check. I don't know. Yeah. Please proceed, Daniel.
Okay. So this is another example of a good idea. the proposed enhancements, screenshot, very detailed, it's very clear what the user wants. And here's another one. It doesn't include a screenshot, but still it's a very well-defined idea. So the links are in the presentation. Everybody can look at it afterwards to get inspired by that. Let me go back to the presentation. Now, let's cover the last part, and that's the Forge. So the Forge is a code repository basically for reusable components that can save you development time and can enhance your project quality. And so why would you want to contribute to the Forge? Well, it's a way to help others by sharing your solutions. It is a means to gain visibility and recognition. So maybe you don't like to participate on the forum or on ideas, but you are like you do like a lot of coding and you really like that. So this is another way of gaining visibility and recognition. And you actually can receive feedback and improve your work. If people use your component and they expect the code, it's also a way for them to share feedback if they feel to. And the best practices for sharing components are to first provide a proper component name and documentation. Second, ensure quality, also through testing and also through correct versioning. And last, to keep your components updated and also reply on support questions. Many components are not kept up to date, and the result of that is sometimes that people decide to fork the component and make their own version. Of course, it's you depend on the the component team to accept you as a component contributor, and that many times doesn't happen if you want to participate. But therefore, also for the team, it's very important, or if you're the individual Forge component creator, to keep your component updated and reply on support questions. That is the way for more people downloading your component. The moment you don't update, the moment you don't reply, people will start forking your component and no longer download. So what makes a great Forge component? Well, I think it needs to be original. Yeah, we don't need another component that does just the same as another one. That said, sometimes components do exactly the same thing, but the implementation might be way more efficient, more performant. So that's still a valid reason to put another component in the Forge that maybe does the same something as another one, but you think your one is just better. But also ensure high quality code and provide documentation. Follow Forge component best practices. They are documented. A link is provided at the end of this presentation. If possible, provide a demo app. I think it's an easy way to explore how the component works without the necessity to download it first in your environment. And great Forge components get certified as trusted component. There are not so many trusted components because I think one reason is it's a manual process to get them all certified, and it depends on the availability of moderators, Forge moderators that actually do this. But it's definitely a sign of a great Forge component if it has a trusted badge. So what are the do's and don'ts of Forge participation? Well, follow the complete guide of creating components. Again, the link is provided in this presentation. It's a very detailed description on how to create Forge components. Also, consider licensing implications. If you build an extension with an SDK of a product that has not a free license, or you use a JavaScript library that does not have a free license, make sure you describe that in your component description. Also, try always to join a Forge team before you decide to fork the component. Don't fork components without giving credits to the original component team. If you copy something to enhance it, it's good practice to credit the original component team for their work. Also, avoid collecting component usage by including an API. It doesn't happen a lot, but I think it's a really bad practice that you build in logic in your component to report usage to you. And also be mindful with timers that run on publishing. I think even OutSystems is guilty of that. There are some components that when you install them and they are published, they generate, for example, hundreds of demo users in your users application, which is polluting it. So be mindful what you do on publishing to not pollute the environment of the community member that installs your Forge component. So this is an example of a very good documented Forge component. I provided a few more links. Let me show you in the browser. It has a clear title, an icon. It has a nice description. It even has a YouTube tutorial. Well, it's all the way. Detailed description. If I look on the documentation tab, the video is there. It's still with a very detailed described. The use cases are described. So this really is, for me, a really impressive example of a good Forge component. Here's another one. This one is from Miguel Antunes, I believe, or Miguel Vicente. Really detailed, with a lot of information on how to use it. So this is these are great examples of Forge components. Let me get back to the presentation. So what are the key takeaways of this OutSystems user group talk? Being an active member is a win-win. If you respect the community guidelines, you grow your expertise, you earn recognition, and you contribute to the platform's future. So how could you get started today? You don't need to be perfect. You can just start participating. Every time you ask an answer or test something, you're learning and you're growing. And the more you engage, the more confident and knowledgeable you will become. So bottom line, you don't need to be an expert to contribute. Just start small, keep learning, add value where you can, and over time you build the confidence and expertise. As I mentioned already, here are a few links that I think are relevant to look at and read. And by that, I end my presentation and open the floor for questions.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much, Daniel. That was very, very clear. And the best part was you showed us examples, be it for the best idea or for forum or for the Forge, right? So it was very detailed. I got to learn a lot. Now I have a question. Yeah. So if somebody submits or uploads a Forge component, can you please tell me if every component undergoes a set of review by moderators, or is it only for the trusted components? Or is it only for getting the trusted badge? If so, what exactly is the process behind getting the trusted badge?
It's a good question, and in all honesty, I do not know exactly because I'm not, that's the one part I don't contribute much. I do know for the trusted badge, there's a thorough process. There's like a checklist that your component needs to comply to. But I see there's also, I think, a difference between ODC and O11. On ODC, you can currently not on personal name contribute a Forge component, and there is a stricter process where every component needs to be approved. I'm not sure, but I don't think that's in place for O11. So it's more easy. So my own experience is that when I publish my own components on O11, once you've done it, they are visible, and it's only the trusted badge. But I think on ODC, it's a different process at the moment.
Understood. Understood. Okay. And you mentioned a point about API usage in Forge component. I was not able to clearly understand it. Can
Okay.
you please let me? I believe should have been the
Yes.
same with others.
sometimes it happens that people put in an API. So they created an API outside the platform or maybe in the personal environment. And then in the Forge component, they call that API. Basically, so let's say that Forge component has a few actions, and then in the action, they call the API to track the usage. So I
Okay.
think that's a bad practice, a very bad practice. I
Okay.
would never. Uh, so if I would download that component, the first thing I would do is remove that. Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't want somebody to track my usage of the component.
Yeah. Exactly. Understood. Understood. So these are my questions, and yeah, in the Q&A section we do not have any questions at the moment. I guess the participants were kind of clear with the explanation that was provided.
Mhm.
So, yes, Daniel, and how was the community count when you had started, and now is it increasing? If so, what pace is it increasing? Because in the past couple of years, not sure, we kind of see that what it was earlier, like before 3 to 4 years, was huge,
Mhm.
and the last
Mhm.
year it was kind of not that huge, but it was good. So, what is your take on the
Yeah. So
yeah?
OutSystems already exists longer, and the community pages exist longer than that I'm working with OutSystems. So my 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 experience is as of 2015. I think in the beginning days it was not so big. I think around 2017, 18, when mobile and reactive were introduced, there was a huge growth on our systems, not only on the community, also, and of course, on customers and our systems
Yeah.
partners.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would say that in the last years the growth was especially in the APAC region. If I From my own observation, I don't have the numbers, but that's what I think. If I look at the community, definitely there's a lot of people from APAC that are very active, and
Understood. Understood.
yeah, that and yeah, for the rest on the Forge, it's a bit unfortunate right now that you cannot see that on the ODC Forge, whereas the growth on the Forge is especially on the ODC part, but people can only publish when being working for a customer or a partner. So
Okay.
it's
Okay.
difficult to see how much the community is tracking is doing there.
Understood. Understood, Daniel. Although we can see the ODC components, what you try to mean here is only people working for a customer can upload
Yeah,
components or
yeah,
assets
and
to the
it's
ODC.
also so. For example, when the Odyssey started, Product League, the company I work for, was also asked by OutSystems to migrate a lot of O11 components, in consultants with
Yeah.
the regional component teams to ODC, and other OutSystems partners have also done the same. So what you see is there's a lot of OutSystems partners that have like 30, 40, or 50 components there that originally not were theirs, but they were asked to migrate them to get the Forge on ODC full. So it's a bit unclear how much that it's not so you cannot see good how much the community actually is contributing there. That's a bit of a pity. Also on the IDs page, it doesn't help that OutSystems still does not allow us to post ODC IDs. There's a category OutSystems Developer Cloud, and then it gives you a message like, yeah, you cannot post. So of course people post, but then on any other category, and which is a pity because we moderators took a lot of effort to categorize everything correctly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm actually now keeping track of all the ODC IDs in an Excel file
Okay.
until the
Okay.
category is open, so we can group them correctly again. So yeah, I
Yes.
think there's a bit of work on also understanding the ODC contribution of the community.
Understood. Understood. Understood, Daniel. And Daniel, we have one more question. So you have been moderating. I mean, you are very very active when it comes to the moderation part, be it for forums or for
Mhm.
ideas. Now, do you consider this? Is it like you just mentioned that you do this only in your free time, but how do you get this much free time, or what is your take here? Because we see it feels like you are doing it full time because the
No, okay.
activity is that
Yeah.
much, and is it
Let me
like
explain.
yeah?
So in the beginning, I definitely would put more time in it. As I said, I started as a way of learning, yeah, and that takes time.
Yeah.
And I would, okay, I would might spend my free day on it or an evening. But nowadays, over the last years, I contribute less and less with solutions. I still do sometimes, but the ones that I can easily reply on. I'm not going to try to figure out something I don't know. I will contribute now with what I know, and I indeed focus more and more to moderating. So making sure people
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, get the right replies or marking something as upvoting, downvoting. That's more moderating, and I do that by when I commute in the morning or in the evening. That's one way to do it. I read the email that you can get from OutSystems every day with the new ideas. So basically, that's my trigger to check out the new ideas and see if they have the right category or reply on it. And that's what I do in the morning before I start work. And sometimes I do
Understood.
it when I commute home. I travel by public transport, so it gives me an hour of time, and I even don't use that hour. And sometimes it's some work, just 5 minutes between meetings. You can do a little bit.
It's
But
huge.
my community contribution, I would say on average on a day is maybe 5 to 10 minutes, 15 minutes with some exceptions. And the bigger contribution, which is not so visible, is actually talking to OutSystems.
Yeah.
As an OutSystems MVP, we have some perks, and one is a Slack channel where we
Yeah.
can talk to everybody at OutSystems, and that's where I'm the most of the time to
Yeah.
try to make OutSystems understand of certain problems. Sometimes there are questions on the forum or an idea that I think deserve direct visibility to OutSystems, so I'll inform them about it. And that's what you don't see, but that's most time spent there. But it's like with any social media, it's on your phone. You can do it everywhere in a minute. So it's not like dedicating hours to this. It's just filling the Slack time that I have.
I mean, that itself is huge. And thank you. So one last question. In many organizations, I see this trend of asking professionals to be active in the community. The major focus is to improve the ranking, and there is also the comparison or this rank board that gets published. How do you see this? And not
Yeah.
sure. So
It was something I wasn't aware of, but until a few years ago, I think it's a regional thing. I don't think that's a topic in Europe.
here in India,
But
it's a
yeah,
very relevant
yeah.
topic.
So I understood that. Yeah. Yeah. What is my opinion on it? So if you are not honestly adding value to the community and up your ranking in other means, yeah, either you are fooling yourself or you're fooling the company who's asking you to do that. Because what's the value of having a high ranking by not adding actual value to the conversation? So I think in the end, if you look in the mirror, you know what you've done, and that's it. And if you're okay with that, then I have no opinion of that. I don't think it's per se a good idea of companies enforcing this. At Product League, I really am focused on our developers to learn and grow. It's not optional. And we help people to learn and grow by paying for the certifications, by giving them time. We are not asking you need to improve your ranking. That's the outside. That's the end result. That's a byproduct of you learning and grow. And I think that's the right way. The companies that are now focusing on ranking should focus on making sure they give their employees the means, the tools, the time, and maybe also the money, because I understand the price is probably the same for you guys as for us, but the salaries are different. So if they want their employees to grow and learn, they should provide the means for that in terms of time and money and support. That's the proper way.
Understood, understood. And there is also this we just have 1 minute left, so
I have all
small
the time.
comment. Yeah. Thank you. So there is this pre happening that you publish forge components, you you publish, we will, there are a lot of things happening. I see this happening majorly in the APAC community, where you publish, and in order to get the number of downloads, you reach out to people and you ask them to download, although
Mhm.
it isn't something that I actually need, but
Yeah.
then just to, so there are certain practices that we are observing that is kind of being very relevant nowadays, and which is
Mhm.
concerning as well. And from the moderation side or from OutSystems side, is there anything that is, what is
I,
the trend? Is it
I actually think that we have a very great community. So, if we look at the forum where we have, the people that were playing the rank, the ranking, I can count them on my two hands. On such a huge community, that's like an insignificant number of people. And as we are on top of it, it doesn't spread, like because people replicate behavior. So if we are not acting on it, more and more people will do it. But because it's so quickly identified by
yeah,
our systems and moderators and action is taken,
yeah,
it's like 0.00 something percent of the community. So even though it's an active topic between moderators and our systems to be on top of this, I don't think it's a community problem. The same is with spam. Some people are concerned about spam. You guys don't see it, but there's so much spam on our systems, but it's fully managed by AI and moderators so that you're not see the spam. Very occasionally, there are some spam messages or ideas because, the patterns are all of a sudden changing and the AI model needs to be adapted, but that's managed too. And on the Forge, yes, sometimes you see people publishing like every day a new version. And of course, you get a bit of points. I think the number of people that do that is also like 0.00 something percent. It's really a little amount of people. And so in the end, it doesn't make a big negative impact. And it's also not something that you can do on the long run, right? How many days are you consistently going to publish a Forge component just to get a few points? It's a lot of effort for. I don't think these are not common practices, and that's okay. I do not think we are not taking action on that, but I also don't think that there's a need.
understood. Yeah.
I think
Now,
our system should be happy, and the community should be happy that people are actually contributing with the Forge component.
that, that's true. That's true. Now, whose job is this to moderate? Is it on the MVPs, or do we have OutSystems employees who actually have or do this job of moderation full time, or is it purely a volunteer work?
Okay. Yeah, but actually, that's a very good question because some people think we are OutSystems employees, or
Yeah.
some people think we get paid by OutSystems. We get not paid. Don't worry, that's
Oh,
not the case. We get swag. We have benefits. We get, for example, free certification. That's a way of getting paid, of course, which is nice. But if we would not get paid, probably our employer would pay it. So we are not on the payroll. There are OutSystems employees participating on the community. Specifically, the community team from OutSystems can moderate. Yeah. We have people from the OutSystems community that help us. For example, when we think somebody is not being honest in the way they act on the community, as a moderator, I cannot see who vote or upvote. Like you don't know who votes or up or down, but OutSystems can. So when we think there's like a bad pattern, like somebody gets consistently 5 upvotes on everything he says or writes, then that's strange because that's not common. Then we can ask OutSystems to look into it, and if they see then there's a pattern, they will act. But yeah, other than that, I think it's just the OutSystems MVPs and only a selective group of those, because there
yeah,
are about 70 that are actively contributing on the
yeah.
forum as moderators. And I think it's enough. There's not so much moderation needed that it requires a
Understood.
bigger team than that.
Understood. Understood. That is it. Then I am now good, and I have no more questions.
Okay.
So thank you so much, Daniel, for your time. It
Thank
really,
you too.
really gave us a lot of clarity on the community and the participation, on the guidelines, the bad practices, everything. So, yeah, thank you once
Okay.
again, and have a great weekend.
Thank you for the opportunity and goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.